To like look at the camera. He's off looking in space right now. So.
Sorry, I'm here.
Welcome to another quarantined episode of the F and Movie Podcast. Now from 4 New Studios. I'm your host today, Dylan Camacho, and we are still doing we're still doing the pick your favorite week host person and then their movie. This week we've got this guy right. Damn it, this guy right here.
Yep. Oh, he's over here for me.
Well,
he's right here for me.
All right, so whoever is technically going to be appropriate, right? Nathan is going to be the main guy for this one. And for this week, I got to pick the movie for Nathan. And Nathan, what was that movie?
3 Billboards Outside
Ebbing,
Missouri. Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a lot. I always just refer to it as 3 Billboards. I think that's probably what most people do.
Yeah. So let's get into it a little bit. I'll do a quick summary, really quick. Yeah. So, the movie's kind of set up with this mom. Her daughter had been raped and killed and burned alive outside of Missouri, kind of like near these billboard area, and that's already kind of happened before the movie even starts. So the movie kind of goes on with her trying to get attention back on the case because nothing's really been going on for like 7 months. So she buys out these 3 billboards, and it's like just slamming the police, and it just kind of goes on from there. Events kind of go on, and it's kind of just moving from there. It covers her point of view, covers like a police officer's point of view, 2 different police officers, the chief and another police officer, and everybody kind of has their turns in this movie. But obviously, the main character is the mom, and they flesh out to see how events ensue in this small town and how everybody kind of takes to all of this stuff. Pretty short summed up version. If you want more details, go check out the movie. It is much more interesting than what I just described, I promise. But let's get into it, boys. Let's get into it.
Oh, there's one other piece that we need to do before we get into that, and that is, why did you pick this movie for Nathan?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So this movie in particular was one of these things where I could only really quantify it as tone. And I'm not going to write an essay for Price because I don't give a shit about Price, his thoughts, or his essay thinking on delivering it per person. I think if you have a movie in mind... No. That's not the point. The point isn't to explain in heavy detail and having this huge essay why I think this person would like it. I think Nathan would like this movie because tonally it is somewhere in this drama, dark, dramedy at times, type of movie that I think is just going to be tonally something that lines up with what Nathan would like. I'm not saying it hits any of the main check boxes. It's not going to be one of those visually stunning movies, although it's like just kind of pretty Ebbing, Missouri, I guess. It's not going to be a post-apocalyptic one. So I wanted to play it unsafe because I kept getting so much shit for being safe in the beginning. So now I'm all unsafe. And I'm not going to hit any of the easy check mark things and see if I still try to win. So I gave him this because tonally it felt like something that I think is up Nathan's alley without technically having to hit any of the typical trademark boxes that we can narrow down to.
See, that's what I don't get, is because this seemed way more like my kind of movie, because it very much has the same kind of tone as like Foxcatcher or something like that, which I have very much enjoyed in the past, as in just a drama that just goes the whole way.
Drama, yes, but it has dark drama, like dark comedy moments in it. Like a couple times throughout, and that's something, again, like Price, after
Where's
Foxcatcher,
the comedy?
No. For looking at any of the chief scenes and the moments where he's sitting there and he's writing the letters, all of those little moments are like levity and laugh. Like, it's not like haha, like in your face moments, but it's literally, for example, when he says, "Oh yeah, I went ahead and paid off the billboards for another month because I knew it would be funny and I knew you'd be fighting for it."
Yeah.
Whenever he's reading Dixon's, like there's little moments where he in particular is usually the source of like the dark comedy around that moment.
I think drama is a bit of a stretch.
It's little blips. It's a dark dramedy. I'll give it that. Like there's little moments of it. It's not throughout. It doesn't try to be like this intentionally dark comedy throughout the entire time. It is much more a drama through and through. But the reason why I'm not going to pick dramas that I intentionally know I like right off the bat for you, Price, is because you like Foxcatcher, and I cannot stand Foxcatcher. It is a stupid, terrible movie, so I don't know where to give you a drama other than a drama that I don't like. Go look at Brokeback Mountain's review for further details. We're here to talk about Nathan's old thoughts on this, but let's get everybody else's thoughts on this movie.
For one, I enjoy the tone, but this movie has a lot of things that I just started thinking about the next day, and I was like, why on earth would this even be happening? Like in a town like this, like why is the entire police unit just a bunch of dickheads except for the main guy? Like there was the more I thought about it, and the more I thought I should have watched this movie an hour before we did this
Mhm.
because it just sort of marinated for a while. But I I think that the storyline is okay. I think that they could have improved a few different things, and I loved the characters. Like
Mm.
every single character was great. I mean, for what they were handed, I think that they did very, very well.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to hang on to after I watched it the second time. I remember thinking like every character is both extremely flawed in their own way, but also has great human moments where they have a moment to shine. Like the mom has her moments, the dad even has his moments a little bit. Dickens. I always forget what that
Dixon.
Dixon. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dixon has his moments towards the end. Even the chief has his like little moments. They all have these moments where like they're not all like all of them are generally pretty not great people or have something.
Yeah, they're awful, but
right.
yeah, they shine through a little.
Right. And I think that's something the movie really excelled in is whenever they gave you these moments just to let the characters breathe and let their all stories come together, let them be all human, but also let them still be doing what they're needing to be doing for the story's sake and the narrative side.
Yeah. Nathan, what do you think?
I mean, I like this movie mostly because it was very anti-authority and
Yeah.
really just
Okay.
it's very negative on cops. Although towards the end it definitely tries to like have these characters be redeeming and show that there's more complexity to it, but I
I
mean,
like that you said tries to be redeeming
yeah.
because I agree. I think that they put forth that effort, but I don't know if it sold it for me.
So, and I think this is like kind of more not necessarily meant to be geared towards like all cops, but it's so if you come from a small town, this is a very vivid like, oh, I have an exact example for this. Like
Yeah.
and this was something I was talking about with my wife because she watched it and ended up watching it with me. And we both were like, this is exactly what would happen if this happened in like Grayson County, Kentucky or something like that, you know? Like if it was something along the lines where it's like, oh, the small county stuff happens and everybody's just doing drama and talking about it, but then they'll defend the cops even if the cops are shitty. And I'm not using Grayson County cops as a bad example, but just a small town example. I don't think this is meant to speak against all cops everywhere, but these ones were clearly racist, don't give a shit ones. Even whenever Woody Harrelson, the chief, or Chief Willoughby, was like, yeah, well, if we got rid of all the racist cops and, you know, all the ones left over would still hate the facts. So, you know, what are you going to do? Like,
Exactly.
like moments like that where even I think he plays a better guy at times, but it still shows that, like, I think that he only plays a better character than the rest of the cops is because he's on his way out. Like, he's dying, he knows it, so he has this levity to himself that it's like, these aren't as big of a deal. And you could tell that he's enabled all these cops to be racist, scummy, and shitty to everybody.
Yeah.
So.
And Woody Harrelson always has a girl that's like 40 years younger than him.
Yeah.
As
That
like his
pissed me
romantic
off
interest.
so much. Oh my god, I hated
that. Is the
that.
weirdest part of the movie. Like,
I don't understand how she lives in this small town. She has like
He
what
was
a
foreign.
Australian accent or something.
Yeah.
mhm.
Like, where did she come from, and why was she with him?
Why
I
did
don't
she
get that.
land in Ebbing, Missouri? And like, I don't know. Like he said, she's like, I don't know.
It
He's
was
vague.
hard to pick up the accent, but I feel like it was kind of Australian. It definitely was
Is
not from
something.
there.
Yeah, it sounded very like Kiwi, right? Like Australia, New Zealand, something in
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. See, I did enjoy the movie. You thought I was going to be like hating the movie, but I did like it. It's just, again, after Mason said, like, after I let it marinate for a little bit, and right after I got done watching, I'm like, I like the movie, but I'm probably not going to watch it again. I just enjoyed it for what it is, and I think I'll forget it like 2 or 3 months down the road. I did enjoy it, but it just nothing really stuck with me.
So did anybody else have this moment? And this is more so the first time I watched it. The second time I already knew what I was getting from it. The first time I watched it, like I went into it was like around Oscar season because it was like a 2018 Oscar movie. So I was grinding through those movies back to back to back. And I was watching this expecting it just to be a very cut and paste drama. But I remember like thinking like, right around the time Molotov cocktails start flying in this movie, I'm like, oh shit, this movie's a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. Like, I don't know. You can tell that the tone isn't going to be just straight super grounded, but that's going to have moments that are a little bit more crazy than you're expecting. Did anybody else have like a, oh, what movie am I watching, like, thought to themselves, or was that just me on that the first time?
That was very surprising. Like that, I mean, she clearly had a character that was just like getting more unhinged over time, but that was pretty extreme that she firebombed a police station.
Yeah. Which,
That was a lot.
it's a
No,
lot.
so here's what I'm saying. Like there were so many unbelievable points to this movie for me. Like, I know it's a small town.
Mhm.
I understand that you probably have a couple bad cops. Sam Rockwell was like in remedial classes in school, and he has been on this police force for 3 years. It took him 6 to go through.
Yeah, it got held back. Like,
No, dude, it doesn't have, like, I couldn't, and he just destroyed that guy on the street and
Mhm.
basically still had his job up until about 24 hours later or whatever, whenever that guy came in. There were just so many things, and like I'm glad you brought up the police station thing. Like, that was pretty silly to me. The ending of this movie was one of the worst things that could have happened. Like, I don't see how Sam Rockwell and what was her name in the movie? The main
Something
Mildred.
Hayes.
Mildred.
Mildred Hayes.
Yeah.
Like, they just rode off into the sunset. Like, and then she was like, "Do you really feel comfortable killing this guy? Like, are you gonna be cool with it?" "Oh, I don't know. He did do something shitty, but I don't know what it is." "Well, I guess we'll just decide on the way." I, I, it made me more and more angry as I was just thinking about it the next day, because I was like, "What? Are there no rules? Are there no rules in Missouri?" Like, it's just awful.
See, I think that whole end has to come from if you buy that he has a change of heart, so to speak, after reading like the Chief's letter. And for me,
Yeah.
like, I see that him, not that he's not being racist, and he hates Mildred because he realizes that she's just putting the Chief through all this trauma. Like,
Mhm.
there's not really any other driving motivation for him to dislike her other than that. After he passes away,
Yeah.
and the Chief is like, you got to let go of that shit, man. You got to use your head. You can't just act out and be angry and do all that. And
Yeah.
even, which for the record, I love when he's reading that and it's just everything's on fire in the background. And he's just listening to classical music of all things.
Yeah.
So I think for you, like, for me, I bought that change as he kind of transgresses, because he sits there, he's kicked out of the force, he's sat there and he lost the one thing that he cares about, and the Chief's gone, and that's clearly like the most important person to him, like, other than his mom, probably. This is like
His mom is so fucked up in this movie, though. She's
Yeah.
an awful person.
So she's
I love
terrible,
her.
but she's appropriately terrible. Like, you cast that
Mhm.
woman to be a walking, talking cigarette of a person. Like,
You got that from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
Like, your mom is a walking
yeah,
cigarette.
exactly. Like, they saw her from Always Sunny and then just kept her as the character more or less.
Mhm.
Like, there's not
He
anything.
crushes it.
She has a little bit more lines than she does in Always Sunny. That's pretty much about it.
She just
But-
grunts.
Yeah, it's just. But I don't know. For me, like, towards the end, whenever he's sitting there and he's listening to these guys, and he knows that, like, even what the Chief was trying to do in the last moments of his, like, time as a cop was, like, trying to solve this case. He's like, you know what? Maybe there is something I didn't see. And this opportunity comes up to him. Yeah, I buy that he's like, all right, you know what? I'm not a cop. I don't have to play this the cop way, but let's do something to redeem myself, because this is what the Chief would have wanted me to do. Like, that's how I kind of see it. And it goes all the way to the end, where they ride off to go kill a dude because he's just like, fuck it. Like,
Because he's kind of a bad guy, I guess.
right. Like, and so I like that this is one of those movies that does not give you that happy ending that you're kind of expecting, right? Like,
I get that. Yeah,
even
that's
for
fine.
a moment, the movie teases that this might be the guy who, like, raped their daughter, and that they're gonna get like this rip-off thing, and then the new Chief who comes, you crackers ain't got no better work to do, or whatever. Like, he comes in and tells him, he's like, yeah, he wasn't even in the country, and Dixon couldn't even figure out what country he was in, but yeah. I don't know. So for me, like, I like the ending in that way, because I'm like, all right, it makes him a redeeming character, because there's something there and the Chief keeps pointing it out. So for him to actually show it rather than just have the Chief tell you it and then you never see it in the movie, I felt that was more gratifying for me. If it goes all the way to that instance, maybe not in real life, but this is one of those movies that is very much it's grounded in real life to a point. Like I said, right around the point where Molotov cocktails start flying is when I'm realizing I need to suspend my movie's belief of realism a little bit in this film at this point now.
But it could have been so much more believable. Like it really, really could have. Like,
all right, so
like,
what's the Mason edit of this movie then? I'm curious. Like,
okay.
how do you think?
No, I got you.
Yeah.
So the ending. Okay.
Okay.
I know you just said it doesn't have to have a happy ending. I agree. It really doesn't.
Mhm.
But like, if that guy was actually the guy, that would have been so unrealistic. But I think I still would have been okay with it
Mhm.
because of the movie's tempo and like, I don't believe a bit of it anyway. So for him to just not even be in the country for whatever reason, all right. And I appreciate the teasing of it. You really wanted Sam Rockwell to have done a really, really good deed there and to find the killer and to
Yeah.
deliver the news to Mildred. I wanted all of it just as much as you guys did, but it didn't happen. Okay, that's fine. So that's why the ending to me is just trash because, okay, I got his license plate number. The edit for me would be Mildred, there are so many crimes that go unsolved. You could watch any Netflix documentary and understand that half of them, the guy's still out there.
Mhm.
And she thinks that like anything can happen, like a CSI crime scene investigation type montage can just happen and find all this stuff. They probably have like 6 police officers within that unit in that city. Like, I don't know. Like, she wasn't super believable just in how passionate she was to like out the main chief, which was easily the best character morally in this movie. He didn't get mad that his name was plastered on this billboard and everyone else was pissed off. Like, he had the most moral compass in this whole movie.
See, I think Mildred though, that's one of the positives I liked about this movie is that they kind of made her the antagonist because at the beginning of the
Yeah,
movie
they
you kind of side with her and then throughout the movie you realize like she's a horrible person. Like
He is a
I
psycho.
get yeah, and like it makes sense that she'd be very angry about her daughter's death and everything, but like the way she goes about handling it and attacking everybody, including her son, and just lashing out at everybody, like she's a really bad person, and you're
She's a
not
flight
supposed to
risk.
sympathize with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's an interesting point to be made on Mildred being both essentially the pro and the antagonist in this film. Is that I think you have to sit here and say, all right, how far is somebody grieving going to go? And I think that the big line that I'll see with, I guess Mason's like seeing Mildred's motivations is that she wouldn't go this far to kind of just keep it going. Like, for me, I buy that because she's grieving. She's been 7 months. The case doesn't go anywhere. And like realistically, I think that she probably understands that there's not really a whole lot these guys could be doing. But that's the grief process. That rational thinking is out the fucking window because it's all just and you can tell that she's just an emotion-driven machine at this point. Like she's saying throughout the time she's reading books how to keep this case like relevant. She's like, that means you got to keep it in the public eye. You got to do this, and like she's grasping for straws for any rational thinking to make her feelings make sense. But I mean, everything she does is just emotion. Like, and that's what I liked about her character throughout the film is that stays a constant is that nothing she does, like a rational person would probably say, I probably shouldn't go do this. I shouldn't spend all this money on this. I probably shouldn't do like everything that she does in this movie. But that's not rational. That's just her feelings from saying that she feels helpless and upset and torn. And even whenever there's moments where she takes breaks from just being angry and because that's how she's coping with it. Like the deer scene, for example, the one where she's talking with it. And it's like, even if I don't know if it's supposed to give me hope or give me reincarnation as a thinking or something, but, and then you just see her start breaking down, like just saying, oh God, nothing's going to happen. This is not, life is not like pointless. Just for her to have those moments of accepting it. And then she goes back into the denial saying, no, if I deny it, then if I stop believing it, then nothing else will happen. No justice will be served.
Yeah, I get that. And like, there towards the end where even the chief's letter to Mildred was like, what this case is going to take is somebody bragging to another guy at a bar how he did it. It's going to, and then it's just going to be a contact and a witness to that. And and that's why the tease happened so well.
Right.
That's what I think sort of planted the seed for us. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I feel
This
like
was
I feel like it's a pretty well composed story, even if it
is.
is extreme and over the top. But I mean, her character, those signs are right in front of their house,
Mhm.
and that's exactly where her daughter was killed. They're still like, I don't know how 7 months later this is the case, but do you remember
Oh, there's
whenever
still like
they
the burn marks on
yeah,
the
the
ground.
burn marks on the ground where she was burned alive are there, right in
Yeah.
front of those billboards. So, like, I could see somebody being that driven to try and figure out who killed their daughter. I mean, that's
Yeah.
crimes of passion happen all the time, and that is it is strange that she would carry it so far as to like firebomb the police station. Like, that's
At
wild.
that point, I was fine with anything. I was like, she's gonna
All right.
skydive out of a plane with like a banner behind her or something.
Yeah.
Like it's
This
gonna
is the
happen.
ride that we're on, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But I also found it pretty funny whenever she decided she was going to admit that she did that, and he was like, "Of course you did it.
Obviously.
Who else would have done
who else
that?"
would have bombed the firebomb the police station? Like, yeah.
Yeah. To speak to your point earlier, Dylan, one of my key points was I actually liked the comedic parts. Like, for instance, whenever Peter Dinklage was in the bar and he was like kind of trying to like flirt with her, and then she came home and immediately was like, "I think that midget's trying to get in my pants," and then the Reverend was sitting
Yeah.
there, and then after she just destroyed the Reverend,
Oh yeah,
the son looked at him and was like, "Well, thanks for coming by, Reverend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for coming by anyway."
The little moments that this movie does give you, like,
Yeah.
I think they totally stick the landings on those ones where it's just the levity just is there for like a minute, and I'm like, oh, like, yeah. Those are some of my favorite movie parts of this movie. Even looking at, I was trying to think of when the chief is telling all like his girls to just stay in that little like bunny circle, and then later he was just like, "Hey, and I don't know how they got those fish. They must have been cheating." Like,
Yeah.
just even the simple stuff I think is done really, really well. The more I think about it though, like now that we've been talking on like the believability of Mildred's like over the top actions, I'm kind of on board with thinking it makes sense in this movie because at this point she sees that the police aren't shit. It's a small town thing. She's like, all right, if they can't solve the case, then why would they be able to solve me stabbing a dentist in the hand with like this drill?
Yeah.
And my word against his, right? Or
Hated that part.
yeah,
Hated it.
I like that part. Fuck dentist, but
it was. I mean, I can't really imagine that a dentist would behave in such a way.
Yeah. Oh, you think you need your tooth out? Here we are.
Yeah, without Novocaine or whatever that stuff was called, or
Or
the
even
numbing
looking.
agent. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't think there are guys who are small town dudes who would just sit there and be shittier to a person because they're upsetting somebody they like, though? Like, everything within context. That's what I always come back to. Like, in small town mentality, like, I wouldn't say it probably goes that far. I can't say for 100% sure, but seeing people be terrible to other people for things that really don't even involve them at all because it's just a small town gossip, like, I believe that.
Oh, we're not saying that. We're talking about taking it that far, and the movie
Now,
took
listen,
it
that
that
far,
far.
right? Like, again, but this is the movie aspect of it all. So,
Mm-hmm.
Can I give you guys a little bit of trivia?
Sure.
This
Sure.
movie is
Go for
number
it.
149 on the top 250 list. So that's pretty darn good.
Wait, on IMDb?
mhm.
Well, of all time,
Oh.
yeah.
IMDb.
And it won
Don't
2
care.
Oscars.
It did
So
win.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, she won Best Actress, and then Sam Rockwell.
Sam
won
Rockwell.
Best Supporting. Yeah.
They both were really awesome.
Those
Yeah.
were both
No doubt
very
that.
earned ones. After rewatching that, I remember thinking, like, yeah, she crushes it for Best Actress on that stuff.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
It lost, like, it was nominated for Best Picture as well, but it lost to Shape of Water. So,
oh gosh.
I
yeah.
haven't seen Shape
I
of
still
Water,
haven't
so-
seen that. I started to and haven't actually got through it.
So
Oh, man.
I'm gonna say one more thing, and then I promise my soapbox will be done. So that year, I think it was 2018, right? It
Yeah,
had
2018 Oscars, so it came out.
these were the movies, okay, that it had up against. This is why this year was so weird. So it was Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, and The Shape of Water, along with this movie. I think a good handful of those other movies are not very good. You obviously had Dunkirk and Get Out that were good. Um, that's why I think that this movie may have stood out as like a little higher, because the years before you had Moonlight with a handful of good ones. Last year, can't remember what last year's. Is that the Oscar party that we went to, like the 2019 ones?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, those
Yeah.
have been 2018 movies then, so it's a little.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
I think that this movie got a little bit more like oomph to it because, like, again, it was against The Shape of Water, it was against Phantom Thread,
Mhm.
The Darkest Hour, Call Me by Your, a lot of
It was a
these.
very drama-heavy year.
Dunkirk.
Yeah,
Right.
I like Dunkirk
Dunkirk's great. Price
personally.
is an
I'm
idiot.
sorry. I'm sorry, Mason.
Oh,
I
we're
don't care
sorry
about
you
that. I'm
like
sorry,
it.
Mason.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is. I think the reason why this sticks out, and we'll kind of wrap up really quick because I think we're on the timer now with Zoom.
Yep.
But this is a drama that, like, again, that goes a little bit more than the drama. It goes a little bit more high stakes. It goes a little bit more extra than it should. But I think it did it well enough where it didn't make me felt like I hated the movie for it. It didn't ever feel for me that it was totally unbelievable that this character would be doing resorting to these actions. So I'm glad that it sticks out amongst all the other Oscar drama baits and all that stuff. But without further ado, guys, let's get into the score because the time is ticking, literally. So, Price, we'll start with you.
Okay. I'm going at a 6.5. I like the movie. I like parts in it, but nothing in particular really stood out for me. And it's going to be forgettable. Right after I got done watching it, I knew that I'm going to forget about it in a couple of months. And if I'm going to give something a higher score, I want it to stick with me. And this one won't. Nothing here was too outstanding for me, but it was still good. So 6.5. And I know that's not a very substantive review, but I don't care. It's still 6.5.
Mason.
So this movie, I completely agree actually with Price's points. So whenever you picked this movie, I remember two things from it. One of which was the suicide, which I think is a very cool part. Like, it's left field, you don't really see it coming. And I remember like not liking the ending a whole lot. Like, it was very forgettable. So I knew that something had to be up with that. But I'm actually going to give it a 6. It's great storytelling, Nathan, to your point. I think this was the absolute best way they could have gone, where you sort of saw her side of things from the beginning, and then it sort of turned slowly over to where you're like, oh shit, she's crazy. But yeah, so it's a 6 for me. It's pretty good, but I do think that they could have implemented a lot of different ideas and it would have worked for me.
I'm going to go a little bit higher than you guys on this one. I'm going to go right to probably 8.5. I really, really enjoyed this.
Little.
I could tell by how much you talked. I knew it was going to be a high score.
Yeah. So my thing with this is, and I will continually coming back to saying that I'm not super huge on dramas. So seeing something that's a drama but just different in its own way, I think what did a lot for me in this movie. Seeing the little bits of just craziness break through. I think that did a lot for me to like a movie in this genre, and rewatching it the second time, the performances are just so good. I love that all the characters have their own little moments to breathe. Even like the zoo girl, like the 19-year-old girl that the
Oh, she was probably my favorite.
Yeah, like
she was so cute.
Even
she
her,
was so
like,
cute.
Even her defending herself, like to her whenever she's like, "Oh yeah, is this girl?" She's like, "Well, actually, I got let go. I'm working at like a horse place with that," and it's like stupid and silly. But it's her standing up for herself, and I kind of love that. Like, there's little
she
bits
brought a lot of light to the dark points of that movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like wife beating.
That's
another thing that I don't think he would have gotten away with, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. At this point, I don't know what I'm watching.
Yeah, I like a lot of this movie, and I buy it, and I think there's a big line there on the scores where if you buy it for the full ride, then you probably meet it for a higher score. If you enjoy it for what it is, then it's there. So I don't know. I like a lot about this movie. There's not a lot of things I could say against it. So Nathan,
the
Man of the hour.
So I was kind of riding the line between giving it a 7.5 or an 8. I think I'm going to land with an 8 with it. It has fantastic acting. It is a interesting story that has you in the beginning like on board with this like vengeance kind of theme, but then it over time morphs into realizing that she's become the villain. And I like that transformation. I like how it it's a longer movie. I don't remember how long the runtime is, but it certainly feels like a long movie.
Hour
And
45.
52 or something. Yeah.
yeah, I think it gave itself plenty of room to breathe. I do think the ending's maybe not great, but kind of interesting, I guess, in its own way. It's
Hmm.
on its own, it's a pretty neat scene, but in the context of the rest of the movie, it's kind of weird. So yeah, I mean, it's an 8. Yeah, and it's a pretty good ride. Not visually wowing, but it doesn't have to be
It's
whenever.
Missouri.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
We're trying to win that checkbox with this movie. Like,
yeah. I mean, the acting carried this movie tremendously. Like everybody did a very good job, I think. Although I did not care too much for the fact that every single younger girl in this movie is just an absolute idiot. Like
yeah.
every one of them was the dumbest characters in the story. There were like 3 different younger women, and every one of them was just
It was a dunce.
pathetically
Yeah.
naive. It
Yeah.
was ridiculous.
This naive ditzy girl, which I don't know, was kind of like a whenever Sam Rockwell just punches her after tossing the guy out the window. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
And he's like, shut up, or like, sit down, or something like that.
Mhm.
well, we've got a minute left, so let's have Mason tease the movie for next week.
All right. So it's my movie pick for Nathan. I'm going to go with a movie called Sing Street. It's Price. You better go ahead and just go to Japan for this one. We might see you that next week. I don't think that you're going to like it.
Sing
But,
Street or Saint Street?
It's not for
Sing.
me.
Sing, S-I-N-G.
What
Yes.
is it?
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
It's kind of got like a musical type tone to it. It's not a musical by any means. It's just got an original score. But yeah, it's just about the 80s Ireland, 80s Dublin. But yeah, that's all I'll say. So.
Yeah, I'm on board for that.
This is the documentary of
Dropkick Murphys.
Dropkick
Yeah.
Murphys. Yeah, that's what that is.
All right, guys. Well, that's Sing Street next week. Make sure to tune in then. If you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, hit the bell whenever we go and we upload this video, and make sure to subscribe if you like this channel. We are less than a minute away from it and just cutting, so that's it. Everybody tune in next week for Sing Street.
Bye.
Goodbye. So that guy.